And welcome to Rhode Island Kids Count's virtual meet and greet with the candidates running for Rhode Island Governor. I am Paige Parks, Executive Director of Rhode Island Kids Count. And for those unfamiliar with our work, Rhode Island Kids Count is a statewide children's policy and advocacy organization that works to advance equitable policies that improve children's lives and eliminates disparities by bringing together the power of data, advocacy, and civic action. The meet and greet sessions are designed to be an opportunity for you to hear directly from the gubernatorial candidates about kids' issues. All candidates that met the 1,000 signature threshold to qualify for the ballot were invited to participate in a virtual meet and greet and to also complete a survey about their plans for addressing the most pressing issues for kids and families. We are thrilled that 4 of the candidates have taken us up on that offer to speak with you. And I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's session with Aaron Guckian. The format for the next 30 minutes is Aaron Guckian will have up to 5 minutes to introduce himself. Then I have 2 prepared questions that will be asked of every candidate, and then we open the floor to you. So at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there should be either a Q&A button or you may see 3 dots in a circle that say more. If you click on that, you should be able to see the Q&A feature there. Please submit your questions there and please include your first name and town if you feel comfortable. So we cannot see your faces because we are in a webinar format, but we can still get your reaction. So please use the reaction button at the bottom of your screen to give us some real-time feedback on what you are hearing. So now I would like to welcome gubernatorial candidate Aaron Guckian. So, Mr. Guckian, please introduce yourself to the Zoom room and you will have 5 minutes for your introduction. Oh, you are on mute.
Hey, wait a minute. Let's try this again.
There you go.
Take 2. Yes, good afternoon. My name's Aaron Guckian, and it's a pleasure to be here. And thanks, Stephanie and Paige, for putting this together. I did work for 5 years at the Rhode Island Foundation and knew Elizabeth very well, all the way back to the old days with Governor Kachiri. So very familiar with your work, and thank you for everything you do for our state. Very quickly, I have deep roots. Sorry. Okay, here we go. That's just somebody calling me. So got deep roots here in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. I was born and bred here. My father's a local 51 plumber, and my mom's a retired respiratory therapist, both retired. They live about a mile down the street from me. And I went all the way through East Greenwich school system, and very proud that I was on the Wall of Honor, which is great. I was a big athlete, played college basketball, also studied music, and went to Connecticut College, right in New London. Most of you might know Tufts, Colby, Bowdoin Bates, those mini Ivies. Did my 4 years there, and also got certified to teach, and went to the language school, which I'll touch on, which I think is important, the Sprachschule in Middlebury, Vermont. Middlebury has a language pledge that you sign, and that's all you do is actually, when you're there, is not only do you study the language, but you speak the language, and you're working with people from people are first year all the way to PhDs and native speakers, and it's a great way to learn language. I then went on to grad school after I graduated from Connecticut College. Went to the Eastman School, which is a famous conservatory. George Eastman, the founder of Kodak, was a big philanthropist in that area. And, I'm an opera singer, so I sing in 5 different languages. I got a master's. I ended up finishing that at Rhode Island College. And then I do have an MBA. I got a master's in business at night. I actually take 5 undergrad because I didn't have the financials in regards to, the business classes and some of the accounting classes. But, simply put, I was Governor Kachiri's special assistant. I did most of the day-to-day. I also worked with the First Lady, did all the event planning, did a lot of different events. Sometimes I was getting a coffee, and sometimes I was in very serious meetings, supporting the effort. I then went on to banking. I did 5 years at Washington Trust and Bank Newport, rose to a vice president in loans and deposits, and learned all about money, which was important. Then went on to the Rhode Island Foundation. I'm a fundraiser, worked under the great Neil Steinberg for 5 years, and then did a lot of complicated transactions, estate planning, which was great. But to keep it simple, we raised more money to do more good. And I was proud of that work. And then I was the executive director of the Rhode Island Dental Association. I was a leading advocate for oral health, and I'm happy to report that I got $11 million. We worked with the Attorney General, Peter, talked about the problem. We had over 500 kids alone that had needed emergency dental care requiring anesthesia. And we got to work, rolled up our sleeves, got the data, and now $11 million has been distributed to the federally qualified health centers, the FQHCs. In addition, Samuel's Sinclair. So was also able to get a surgery center of Rhode Island. We expanded the certificate of need so these pediatric dentists and oral surgeons could do the same work. That also now has a place. So we have a whole process for special needs and these children to get the work done by the professionals. Because if you can't chew, you can't eat. And it was so important. I
One
had an
minute left.
oral health career pathway that was started at Juanita Sanchez to teach the kids about how to get the prerequisites to go to CCRI in Lincoln. And also got Colgate Bright Smiles, Bright Futures into the city through the state, because the state controlled it at that time, and now that's back. But there's all sorts of resources and good oral health habits. So with children, I was also a music teacher for a couple of years early in my career, and also taught Fragile X and autistic children and used to sing with them and deal with music. So that's sort of my background, and also my kind of back and forth. I have three beautiful daughters, 15, 17, and 23. And my wife and I live in EG, and she was a professor at Johnson & Wales University and now works for the family because she's retired. So and she went to LaSalle. So she grew up in Cranston. But that's sort of the story on my background.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction. And my apologies for mispronouncing your last name, Mr. Guckian. So I
Oh,
apologize for that. Thank you for the
yeah, my
correction.
family says it differently. I get a lot out of it. I say the guck stops here, but it's Guckian. But some people say Guckian like toucan, so don't worry about it. It's not Murphy, as they say.
Well, thank you. So I have
Yes,
two
yes,
prepared questions for you. So before I
yep.
say the first question, just to remind folks that they can put their questions in the Q&A. So first question
Mm.
is poverty is connected to every indicator in the Rhode Island Kids Count Fact Book. In 2024, about 1 in 6 or 16.3%, which is about a little more than 32,500 kids in Rhode Island lived in poverty. In June of this year, the Annie E. Casey Foundation reported that between 2019 and 2025, Rhode Island had the largest decline in children's economic well-being of any state. As governor, what concrete steps will you take to improve the economic well-being of Rhode Island's children and families? And do you believe Rhode Island can end child poverty?
So to be clear, the reason I told you that whole story is because a lot of people are going to tell you about what they're going to do. I've done it. I've had my sleeves rolled up into this community for decades. I've raised money. I've worked with different groups and teams. I was in the governor's office. So, I understand what needs to happen. I'm very good with public-private partnerships and grants and finding money, resources, getting the smartest people in the room, removing some obstacles. I'm a problem solver, and then getting out of the way, which is so important, and also deflating the ego. My thing is Rhode Island works smarter. You work directly with the frontline and union workers. When they find savings and fix systems, they will get rewarded. will be negotiated with the unions or whomever we're negotiating with. The rest will lower taxes and fees, powered by modern technology and AI in these smarter cities, where these AI and what they can do in a positive way with guardrails, they can save a lot of money, duplication, massive transparency. And it's a 24/7, 365 anonymous idea portal. Why does this matter? Because if we don't lower taxes and fees and get a competitive environment, Hasbro's left, everyone's leaving, and you can also not attract. So my position is you can't tax your way out of this. I also will say, even if you're a progressive, I have a lot of progressive friends, and they say, I want you to tax me more. What I'm saying is you're paying more and getting less. Now, if we don't get our house in order here, we won't be able to provide the services that are necessary for what you're talking about. But if we can get moving and start to save some of this money and also incentivize our workforce, uh, we can do so much because we have so many beautiful parts of this economy that we can take advantage of. In addition, we have so much of the Brown and the universities that we can lean into. I don't think we're using our college students as effectively and activated in our economy as much as possible. So we have to get our house in order. And I think what happens in these times is people are going to promise you everything. Well, if it's going to be another millionaire's tax or it's going to be a second home tax or whatever, it sounds great, but then people are able to use professional advisors like accountants and lawyers and structure their dollars in their companies so quickly right now. And I think people move out here, and they're 6 months in a day, they're moving their LLC or however it is. So if we don't get this moving, we won't be able to provide what you need. But I think you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. And what I just told you about that dental story and that took me less than 3 years. And you can talk to Wayona, you can talk to Angie Bannerman on Coma, you can talk about the Kobe Dennis, you can talk about the people that are in your community and say, hey, is this true? And if you Google it, you'll see all the facts. You can talk to Peter Nerona. We all did this together. And it's very important because as governor, if I can't work with all of the different people, I always say it's not what you can't do, it's what you can do. And we got to get organized. And so I believe if I'm fortunate enough to deploy this system and what they're doing at such a rapid pace with also working with the worker and ensuring they're protected, we can protect our community. We can start getting the basic human needs like so many things in regards to child care credits, in regards to what's the biggest thing I think hits people the most. I had 3 daughters, is also, if you can get more jobs into the community and the state, then hopefully we can start to get a ladder program where we have to incentivize people. I'll end with this. There's a CNA that I know. She's a great person. She was working a lot of hours, and all of a sudden she made too much. So she was popped off insurance. And there was no incentives. There was no ladder program for her to structure things differently, but doing things should be hand up, ladder up, prerequisites. People told you about the language program is in education. We can do this with our teachers, laborious tasks, and I didn't. Now it's 10 times more. We got the income off
Excuse me, Mr.
language. If we had a
Guckian,
massive ESL program,
you're breaking up just a little bit, just so you know. Mr. Guckian, you are
frozen.
frozen on our screen. You might want to try
Okay.
if you, yeah, there you go. We've got you now.
Yep. Sorry. So if we do a massive ESL program for these children, I know they're doing some of these things with the Mayor Smiley, but I think if we amplified it and we worked with a place like, let's say you worked with Middlebury Language School, which is an internationally known language school. If these children were just taken out and just worked on the language piece so they could do the reading and writing, At that point, then they can catch themselves up, because you have elementary school teachers, which I've talked to, many of them are friends, that just they have half the students that can speak English, half that can't. And if we can just get them moving quickly, at that point, then they can compete, and then it's on them. But we got to do the basics. We got to work with the teachers and listen. And we have to leverage all of the technology that we have to hopefully solidify, make it easier on our teachers so they can teach in the classroom. So that's sort of my answer to that.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, and after this question, we turn it over to the audience. So please put your question in the Q&A. But question two is many budgetary and legislative wins for kids have been the result of strong advocacy from parents, youth, service providers, and advocacy coalitions like the Right from the Start campaign, the Raising Rhode Island Coalition, and many, many more. As governor, you will have many special interests vying for your attention. How will you center the voices, experiences, and priorities of kids and families in Rhode Island?
That's a great question. And thank you. Again, thank you for all your hard work that you do for the community. I think that it's, I think you'll be, this smarter cities and what they're doing, let's say Boston, Philadelphia, if it's deployed correctly and you have the unions on board and the frontline workers, if they once they start to trust it and they see it, you crawl, walk, run, we can save so much money and we can streamline so much. We can have our government be so efficient, so transparent, and it's ground up rather than top down. It's very important. Um, it's as we kind of go through this and we get the wins, people start to be clear. We have a $15.2 billion budget, all for charitable purposes. Excuse me, $15.2 billion budget with 1 million people. And if you just calculate that with New Hampshire, it's about 8 billion per million. Delaware is 7 billion per million. And Massachusetts spends about 10 billion per million people because they have a $70 billion budget. Why am I talking about these numbers? We are an outlier. We are not spending our money efficiently. We have so much duplication and so much bloat, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be draconian at all. What it means is that there's a budget item it's like $250 million. It's not even a line item that you understand. And I'm not demonizing our legislature. What I will say is that if we do this sort of audit and we start to see savings and we can figure this out, we can not only get these dollars and then we can use them appropriately or efficiently, and we can also see these duplications. A lot of things is we have a lot of patchwork. We have a lot of great nonprofits, but a lot of them are in the same sector, and no one's talking to anyone, or there's not a lot of conversation. And so you could be doing great work in one nonprofit, and it's the same nonprofit that's doing the same thing, and no one's talking together, no one's working together, and then it's just this all. I saw it in dentistry all the time. So yes, there'll be a lot of competition for dollars, and you've heard this many times before, that you'll be so important, and I believe it because I was a teacher, I was a coach, I'm a parent. But I will say, and I said this at the same thing to the Grow Smart group, is that rather than saying, oh, we're going to tax our way or we're going to give you everything, I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's honest. I think you got to look at everything that you've got. But what I will say is you talk to Paige, the executive director, and whomever she would like to bring to the table. You have some lunch. You talk about what you're dealing with, and maybe you do it weekly, maybe you do it monthly. You start to talk about things, especially don't talk about what you can't do, what you can do, and you get momentum. Little wins lead to big wins. And anyone in dentistry or the hygienist or dental assistants, if you told them we get half of what we did done in 3 years, they'd say you're crazy. They definitely didn't think they'd get $11 million. And they definitely didn't know that they'd be exposed to all these grants that I already knew about, not only here, but nationally. And I think also what we can do is lean into family offices. And family office is just a term that they use for ultra rich families that have, they're so big that they have foundations and they also have monies that they invest. And no one, I think, is talking to these people. We have family offices that are here. A lot of people are in Newport that are here for the summer. And if you take a page and you bring them down to, let's say, Regina, sorry, you work with, let's say, an Aaron Donovan Boyle, who's the executive director of Newport Chamber, who's a great friend of mine, and you start talking and bringing these families together and about Stephanie and everyone else out there about what you need and how you spend it. And with the Rhode Island Work Smarter, and if you have the right balance sheet, now all of a sudden they'll see it. They'll know you're using those numbers. They'll be educated on what's going on. They can talk about basic human needs. And a lot of times it's sponsorship. And I'll finalize with this. I worked so hard to get Colgate here. It was a free program, but you had to get all these signatures. And now it's like Colgate's there. And they might not be able to give you money, but they can give you product. They can give you toothpaste and toothbrushes. And I don't think we do enough of that, where we show people what we have, work with all of those top companies and say, this is what we need. So if we can't get you money, we get you supplies. If we can't get supplies, we get you grants. And, again, we'll work together to turn this whole ship around. Because if not, we are on the bottom. We are dead last in everything, and it doesn't work. So that's what I'm here for, hopefully to be a problem solver and to work with the communities every day. And I'm always here.
Thank you very much. So now this is the portion where we move to Q&A. I'm not seeing any questions in our Q&A at the moment. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to add it in at this time. And if we have no additional questions, then Mr. Guckian, you have about 4 minutes to be able to say anything that maybe you didn't have a chance or an opportunity to mention.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm really grateful. I think also about the arts. I wasn't able to talk about that and how important it is. Being an opera singer, being a trumpet player, I don't think we're using enough of that. And with the advent of AI, creativity is going to be so important because we don't want everyone to be a drone and a machine. We really need to impart on that. For a little while, I brought the arts, not only music, but movement and a lot of different things into the K through 5. I was at Quinnesset Elementary School in North Kingstown. It got people moving, right? And dancing and different things. And there's so many different things that you can convey to children in that spirit. I think that working with Steve Feinberg and trying to work with the children and I'm sure you're doing some of it, but with these shows that are coming in, um, movies and different things. A lot of times, if you give kids and you tell them how to be, I used to play this game and they'd interview each other and they'd be on TV and they'd have to communicate and they'd have to write scripts and just mirror and model. Just so many things are going on with podcasts. If you do
We
that, they
do.
get so excited and they get creative and it just really propels them into a new dimension.
We do have one question in the chat from you, for you. The question is, thank you, Selena, for this question. It is, how do you see Trump's policies impacting kids and families in Rhode Island?
Right. So, I'm the endorsed Republican candidate, and I'm on the record that, I'm a New England Republican. There's been a lot of extremes on both sides. What I will say is we have one party, and there used to be greats like Senator Chafee, and we would be able to communicate to whomever the president is. And the bottom line is the president is the president for the next 2.5 years. And being in the same party, you'll be able to communicate, advocate. I know right now they're not even giving the dollars for the winter, all for the blizzards, right? So you could advocate and get those dollars. One of the things I did with the previous administration was this G0330 code, which actually was a facility fee that was for the Surgery Center of Rhode Island so that it would pay. It was an additional $1,000. I worked with the legislature. There's so many different ways that we can work with any administration. There's a lot of positives and negatives to any administration. One of the positives, I think, is with Bobby Kennedy, what he's doing with getting dyes and sugars, getting healthier food. I think a lot of the things that has been deployed, especially they've really pressed some of these top 500 food companies to, and they've acquiesced to be like, yeah, we've got some bad stuff in our food, and so it's healthier. In regards to different cuts and what have you, I think that top down, um, if you look the way the state is being operated, it's not being operated efficiently. And if you're any president, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you're going to look at the balance sheet. And unfortunately, with our state, we are
1 minute
just
left.
we're not spending money correctly. And the only idea that the other side has is to tax. But what I will say is also with grants, federal grants, one of the things with housing I think we can do is a veterans village where you get these modular homes or small pallet structures with wraparound services, public, private. Again, you get the grants. You can start to get working with homes for our veterans and our National Guard so they can get to different places, take a little bit of the pressure off. In addition, I think we can do a Patriots Village, which is the next level of it, which you could get nurses, young nurses, and teachers and different people in these little efficiency apartments so they can support our community. And then you can get massive grants from the federal government if it's articulated, if you have the data. And much like the rural health dollars, I got 10% of the $1 billion is advocated to oral health. And not a lot of people know that
You're
because I
wrapping
was
up?
able to effectively give the data and put language to the grant. So you'll see a lot of those dollars. I think 156 million is being disseminated right now over 5 years. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Guckian, for joining us for this meet and greet. And you can learn more about Aaron Guckian on his website, which is aaron4ri.com. That's Aaron, FORRI.com. So thank you so much. Our next meet and greet is with Helena Foulkes, and that will be at 4 o'clock today. So we hope you come back and join us. Also, the candidate survey responses will be released on Monday, August 24th. So please stay tuned on the lookout for that. And of course, remember to vote. Early voting begins on August 20th. The primaries are September 9th, and the general election is November 3rd. Thank you all so much.